All right. I am so excited for everyone to join us today. This is going to be the first in a series of legacy leaders interviews. And one of the reasons that we are launching this series is as we kind of gain momentum coming through 2020, which has been one of the most challenging years I've ever endured as a business owner, as we pursue success, it's become very evident that one of the most powerful things there are out there are the stories of those that have really made a difference, that have made an impact. And those stories are not always the same. In fact, many of them are very different in how they start and how they progress and how they end. So legacy leaders has been a vision for some time of how are we going to share those stories? How are we going to make sure that other leaders know what's possible? Not because of someone else's vision, but because of someone else's journey. And so today I am incredibly excited to have with me Tyler Pashong. And goodness sakes, I didn't even ask you in advance if I'm pronouncing your name right. So I hope I've got that.
You nailed it, actually. You absolutely nailed it. Most people don't, but you got it.
Good deal. Well, cool. I have to be honest, I'm excited to have you on here. I truly have been following your journey, and I know that kind of sounds a little stalkerish, and I don't mean it that way. But when I see someone in my business community that is doing things differently, and especially the ones that are having a community impact, when I see that, I pay attention. I don't always reach out and say, "Hey, by the way, what's different for you, or what are you doing?" I kind of like to just stay off on the sidelines and watch the journey because it's inspiring. And I want people to take their own journey too. Sometimes when I reach out, I might kind of change their trajectory a little bit. And I love watching people just embrace what's truly theirs. So Tyler, if you could, just for starters, share with us who you are and where do you come from? Because it's not Omaha originally, if I recall correctly.
No, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm super stoked to be here. Appreciate all the work that you do. And likewise, I think we put things on social media for other people to see. So I have been following you and your journey and everything that you stand for and the leadership. I just love it. So appreciate you having me on. So a little background about myself. I grew up in a town called Marshalltown, Iowa, kind of a rural Iowa town of about 28,000. Love that place. It's a very much a blue collar, bring your lunch pail to work type of mindset in Marshalltown, and just really proud to be from there. Went to college up in Minnesota, and I started with State Farm in 2013 in kind of an apprenticeship role up in St. Cloud, Minnesota, and then did that for 2 years up in St. Cloud, and then had a really unique opportunity to work with my father, who is a State Farm agent in Marshalltown, Iowa. And that really changed, I would say, the trajectory of my life. So my dad would be, and I'm not telling you anything he wouldn't tell you. He would be the last person that would be doing something like this. He does not like to speak in front of people. He doesn't like the spotlight. It's just not where he's comfortable. But he's probably the best human being I know. And for 2.5 years working with my dad, I would see people walk into his State Farm office, but they needed help a lot of times in other ways, not just insurance. And I would see him go above and beyond and just show that he cared, showed that he wanted to help. And so that was like, man, ultimately this business is just a platform. Like it's really not necessarily about just car insurance. It's a platform to do with whatever you want. And so I said, that's what I want. That is what I want. I want to make impact. And I felt like my dad was really doing that. But I'm not someone that does anything like little. And so I was like, you know what? I want to try to do something on a bigger scale. So my wife and I moved to Omaha, Nebraska in 2017. We didn't know more than 5 people. And we just had this mission to do good and show the world that good is happening every day, and make that the mission. Use the State Farm platform, this agency platform, to do something different with it. So that's kind of kind of what brought us to this conversation today is that work 2.5 years into the business.
Well, and I guess honestly, I thought you arrived in 2018, so I didn't realize that you came as early as 2017. I also didn't know that you worked with your dad. I think that's amazing. My dad was a small business owner, and it's amazing to experience what that looks like from a kid's perspective, I guess,
Yeah.
especially as you grow into who you want to become. So helicopter view, as we kind of dive into the details, just helicopter view, is there one sentence that you could give me that would kind of summarize what you do today?
One sentence. I try to make an impact. I would say would be the one sentence. I'm a talker, so one sentence is tough for me, Pamela. I don't stick to one sentence very often, but I try to make an impact. And I guess my why and I feel like why I'm on this earth is to impact people. And I think sometimes when we use that word, we think of grand things, like these massive changes in people's lives and things like. And I don't necessarily believe that to be true. I mean, you hope that you look back in your life someday and you feel you made a major impact. But I think it's the little impacts that make major differences. It's smiling with the people who need a smile. It's hugging people who need a hug. It's telling people you care for them. It's praying for people, praying with people. And I think that is where I found that my biggest impact were in the little impacts. But that's kind of, I would say if there was one sentence in who I am, is I'm just someone that wants to make an impact in people's lives.
So, and I know ahead of time, I gave you some questions that we were going to talk about.
Yeah.
At the end, it also said I might divert from
yes.
So here is definitely a diversion. Most people that go into business, especially independent business ventures like what you're in with State Farm, they see that big impact, that big picture, the big. And so there's this point where they have the aha moment of, oh, well, there's something else and it's different and it's not what I expected. Tell me a little bit about how you came to the awareness that those little moments were really what were mattering most. Was there a point in time, or?
I think it comes from falling on your face a bunch of times, right? Like, I think for me, it was a lot of challenges, a lot of tribulations, a lot of things that didn't work necessarily, or you didn't think that were working. And sometimes they were when they didn't show. Sometimes I think in this social media world that we live in, it's like, man, that I only got 2 likes on that post. No one's reading it. No one's seeing it. No one cares about what I have to say. And then you get a random message from someone that you didn't know even knew you existed anymore, and they say, hey, I saw that. Or, hey, I appreciate what you're doing, and I'm struggling with something. Can we talk? And I think that was where things shifted for me. Like, my heart started to change a lot. Where, like, make no mistake about it, there's that dopamine hit that when you get likes and someone shares your stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's real. Like, it makes you feel good, and that's okay. But you have to be able to train your heart that, like, it's not about that. And you never know who needs to see what you're sharing. You never know who is paying attention. And so, and then, like, you never know who needs just to make sure that they're okay, or needs a smile. And, and I think when I started to realize that, and we started doing more and more on social media, and I would get people that would reach out to me, literally, that I did not know that were even my Facebook friends. And because it's been a long time since we'd connected, and they had never liked anything, they never shared anything, but they knew what was going on, and they knew what I stood for. And that's when I really started to realize that these little things all matter. And I think you shared something yesterday on your page, Pamela, that was about like these big goals and then breaking it down to the little tasks. And I commented on that. And I just believe that to be true in anything in life, right? Any big goal, it's about the daily tasks, the daily wins. And for us, it's like, how can we impact lives? And for me individually, it's like, how can I impact a life today? Maybe just one person. How can I do something small that someone will be better off that day because of it? And I think that it just started from me being able to learn sometimes the hard way that like these little things were good things.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you brought up social media for one, because like even yesterday, so you shared the announcement that we were doing this interview on LinkedIn. You got way more likes than I did. And I was like, seriously. And so, I mean, it's just kind of ingrained in us that we're looking for that recognition and awareness. But what you said then afterwards is perfect. It's often the ones that are not interacting, that are not engaging, that you don't even know that are there, that are being fueled by what you provide. And in business, the same. You know, I'm sure you've had some leads that you thought were completely cold. That you thought, you know, I'm never going to do business with that individual, that this is just not an option. And then did you ever have some of those that came around later and became some of your more devoted customers and clients? Has that ever happened for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think even, you know, whether it be, you know, a current client that maybe you didn't get off on the right foot, maybe it's you know, they're frustrated with some things. So here's the deal about being insurance. Okay. No one ever calls their insurance agent because they're having a good day. Right. And like, that's okay. Like we understand that. But like we see people at their worst pretty much all the time. Right. And whether that routine, what we think of a routine car accident where you drive by and someone's on the side of the road and everyone's okay, there's no ambulance or anything like that. To those people in that moment, that is a month ruiner. Maybe that could be a quarter ruiner, you know? I mean, that's a huge impact on how that 2020 plays out for that person. And so like after they call their significant other, they call us. And so we see people really often at their worst. And so we have to like do as much as we can to help them through those situations and like just be there and show that you care. And so like when it comes to the business side of things, I think of a lot of relationships that, you know, whether it was a prospecting thing that it didn't go well at first, whether it's a current client that, you know, didn't get off on a good foot. And I always just think, you know, we preach a lot in my office about empathy. Like why did that conversation go the way that it is? Why did they treat us the way that they did in that moment? Well, there's something going on there, right? Like instead of just being like this, let's try to understand, let's try to like really empathize with their situation. And when we're able to back the layers a little bit and we put ourselves in their shoes, I mean, I probably might be like that too. You know, like I might be frustrated. I might be upset. I might be stressed. And so that allows us to take, you know, where they're at. And then we've just had a lot of success because of that mindset. You know, I don't think anyone, I hope not very many people wake up and be like, today is going to be a terrible day. You know, like things happen, right? And so we just have to help people through those and try to empathize with wherever they're at and be there for people. And in doing that, we found a lot of success along the way.
So what you said right there now, I think is critical to how you've built your business. And what I've seen, like I said, from the sidelines, is that relationships are the absolute key to everything you do. And a lot of business people would say, oh yeah, relationships are the key to everything that you do. But what you talked about there with empathy, in the last few months, I've spent a lot of time on this topic as I'm working with other organizations because, you know, we're all in this crisis, but it looks different to all of us. And so how do we be empathetic? How do we provide empathy? How do we understand what hope is for that one person? And again, how do you know, did this just ruin their week? Did it ruin their month? Or did it ruin their quarter? And how do we understand where they are at? When you took that journey with your staff in your office and started looking at, okay, how can we embrace empathy? what were some of the key questions that you asked yourself, and maybe the conversations that you had with your staff to help them? Because not everybody comes to empathy naturally. So what were some of the conversations maybe that you had with your staff to help them see how empathy can happen?
I think it starts with asking questions, right? I think instead of, and it became a two-way street, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm perfect, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, I don't get off the phone sometimes with after you talk with a conversation that did not go well, and I'm not upset, right? And so, but we had a culture, we built a culture from the very beginning to seek understanding. And to seek understanding from like true understanding of why people are acting and saying and believing what they believe. And so we talk a lot about I have a 15-month-old at home, and a 15-month-old has always been a 15-month-old. They're all almost all of them are exactly the same, right? They're trying to play with outlets, they're climbing on everything, they're doing everything they're not supposed to be doing, right? But over time, as they get older, their views of the world start to shift based on their own understanding, right? But when they're kids, they don't know anything, right? And so there's certain things that have happened in people's life to help shape why they think the way that they think. But unless we are willing to ask questions, we'll never understand that, because I only know and that's okay. I only know what I know, right? Like, I only know what I see. But if we ask questions, if we take the time to not just send the Facebook post out that I support this, but have a conversation with someone, pick up the phone and have a conversation, say, hey, I noticed that you see this, can you talk to me about that? Like, I'm not disagreeing with you. I don't see it. I can only see what I see. Right. And so tell me why you see, and my eyes have been so open from just having a conversation. That's what we try to do in our office. And I think for me, like, it was finding the right people who believe that, right? Like, who are willing to have those conversations. And that's not always easy. And I can't say I got it right every time, right? But what we were going to do is I was going to invest in my people. I was going to make sure that they knew that I cared about what was going on in their life. I knew that they knew that they were loved. They knew that they were cared for. And so, like, in my opinion, as a business owner, and I was talking to Chelsea, my office manager, about this yesterday, I think there's this disconnect with a lot of business owners that, like, there's this entitlement almost that, like, my people owe me something. Like, I gave them a job, so they owe me something. But in my opinion, if we don't invest in our people, they don't owe you nothing. Like, I mean, they can go get that anywhere else. So we have to invest in our people. And that's what I always tried to do, to know that I was caring for them. I wanted to understand where they were coming from, why they were acting and feeling a certain way. So then when we had the conversation about the client, it was already a culture that was created in our office, right? Like, they already understood that's what we believed here. And so when the client or the future client was acting a certain way, and they say, hey, why do you think that was? Why do you think they are that way? And then they're like, okay, this is a conversation that I knew was happening, because we talk about it so much, if that makes sense. And there were little things. It's not like we're always having major conversations, but those little things, like I said, I think created a culture that helped.
Yeah. Sorry, I have a dog that just decided to join in the conversation. I'll apologize. It's interesting that you really landed in that empathy space, because one of the things that I noticed about you right away, again, first time I engaged with you, which honestly I think was through the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce.
It was, yeah.
You were reaching out through them as a volunteer, I think.
Yep.
And so as I engaged with you that way, I noticed your website. It is not a State Farm website. It's Give Back Omaha. And so everything that you are teaching, this culture you're creating in your office, that website to me reflects that this isn't just an office matter. This for you, it goes beyond there. And not just for the look of it. Like, this is truly a heart matter for you, that what you're creating literally in the walls of your office is something you want to create beyond that. So can you tell me a little bit about how you landed on that website and what that meant to you as you developed your business?
So I bought that domain actually before I interviewed for this position. That's how passionate I was. So it would have been a really bad investment if I didn't get the opportunity. So I'm glad I did, and I thank State Farm for that. But it really it boiled down to me. You go back to that impact. And that's my why. My why is I want the world to be a little bit better. And I hope that whenever my time's up on this earth, that they look back and say, you know what, he made the world just a little bit better. And it does. And so like for our business, when I launched this business, I thought it was so imperative. I'm a Simon Sinek, dare I say, disciple, and I love his start with why, because I believe that. And when we launched our business, I just thought it was so imperative that our business had a true why, right? And our why was we wanted to change the way that people thought about doing business. That it was more than just numbers. It was more than just insurance. It was a real impact. And the coolest thing when we look back, and if you talk to the staff that I've had, both previous and current, I think the things that they're most proud of, and Chelsea was talking about it this morning, is that we see give back inner city, whatever city popping up all over the United States right now. And that was not a thing before we started. And we've done, don't get me wrong, we've done some very fantastic things from a business perspective. We've grown our business exponentially, and I'm very proud of that, but not even an ounce as much as I am about the way that we're seeing other people impact their communities because of what we started here. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. If I look back and say, hey, 30 years from now, we wrote a lot of car insurance. We helped a lot of people with their homeowners. Yeah, I mean, I'll be able to make a good living and all of that, but like, that's empty. That's empty to me. Like, it might fill other people up, but it doesn't fill me up. And so helping people fills me up. And then, like, ultimately, it's and I posted a video about this morning, but life is hard. Life can be challenging. And so when you surround yourself with people that are trying to do good, and like the people in the nonprofit world are just amazing people. Most of them are making peanuts. They're trying to get by, and they have a passion that just care about people. And you just constantly surround yourself. There's some selfish motive there because I love it. Like, then I feel better. Like, and the more time I spent with that, the more time I spent with those people, the more joy I found in my own life, and so I think I just have, through different research and just through trial and error, I found that that's what makes me happy. That's being around people who are trying to do better, trying to make the world a better place, and actually doing something about it, not just talking about it. That's what fills me up. And so, for me, like I said, a little bit, call it selfish. I'm all right with that. I want to be happy, and I feel like I am happy, and those people make me happy. And so that's kind of where Give Back Omaha was just this. I think it was a mission to start to, like, I thought we could utilize this to show the world that was good. I realized very quickly that I needed it as much as anybody. That, like, I'm surrounded by the same negative information that everyone else is, and the more I could fill myself up with the positive in the world, man, my life I just enjoyed life so much more. And so it started as, one thing, and it kind of transformed into something I wasn't honestly expecting right at first.
So I want you, if you could please, and if some of it's proprietary and not necessarily something you want to share, I understand that. But what I'm curious about, if you could share, because there's business owners that are going to see this and hear this, and for them to understand how you did this, what it looked like for you to take a business model and make it a giving model. What did that look like for you? And as they're listening, maybe they'll get some ideas of what it could look like for them. They might be in the insurance world. They might be in a different, world of business. But what did it look like for you? And how did you utilize your business to grow funds and work with nonprofits?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is we did it so other people could copy it. Like, and so, like, I hope people would take this and say, I could use this in my, so I'm very open about how we did what we did. So essentially how we did it from the very beginning was from day one, we were going to sponsor, we called it our hashtag nonprofit of the month. And we found nonprofits that were important to us individually, like that we thought were doing great work. And we would sponsor them. And what that would look like is two things. Okay. So, um, any person that we would meet with in a month for a meeting, and it could be about anything, we would donate $5 to that nonprofit of the month. Okay. So at the end. And so we would keep a tally of all the meetings we had. We'd send a check out at the end of the month. The one thing I noticed when it came to nonprofits, especially your smaller nonprofits, not your I don't know if this is the right word, but box chain, like your Make-A-Wish, where everyone knows what they do. There's a lot of local nonprofits that don't have the exposure. And so what we noticed from the very beginning, and I guess I didn't know this at first, but I realized it very quickly, is what they need is exposure. And so what we did was I would also do an interview. And if you go on YouTube, you'll see a lot of the interviews that we did with someone that has been impacted by the organization. And we would share that on social media. I would share it on all my accounts. And then what I would tell the organization when I thought, it's always funny, these calls I would make to the executive directors and places of these nonprofits. I'd be like, hey, so this is who we are. Because we don't know anybody. When we first started, we don't know anybody. So they don't know us. And so this is who we are. This is what we want to do. You don't have to do anything. We're just only if you could provide someone that has been impacted by the organization that we could talk to and interview, that would be the only real ask that we have. But we're going to donate the money at the end. We're going to share your stuff. We're going to tell the world what you do. And there'd always be like this silence, like, yeah, but what's the catch? Like, I'm like, no, there's no catch. Like, we just want to help you. They're like, no, I get that. But like, what do we got to do? and we're like, no, like, we really just want to show what you guys do. And so at first we worked with and this started to happen. Right. And I think there's always this sense, and right or wrong. And I think there's this sense right away that like, what are the motives here? Like what's this State Farm guy's motive? I don't know. I don't know him. I don't know if I fully trust him. And so I talked to a lot of agents across the country, because State Farm, since we have started, has started this Quotes for Good initiative that gives corporate funding to our mission, essentially. So agents are starting to pick up on this, and more agents are starting to do it. And a lot of them I talk to, they're like, man, I haven't had much traction, with this. And I'm always like, okay, two things. One, check your heart. Like, why are you doing it? And if you're doing it so you get a bunch of business, they know. I'm just telling you, they know. Like, but if you're doing it because you care about the place, they know that too. And two, how long have you been doing it? Because what happens is a lot of times it's like, we did it once and nothing really happened. I'm like, well, of course, like nothing happened in March of 2018 either for us, but we when you care every month and you do it every month and you constantly are showcasing these people and telling their story and telling them that you care and being there and actually investing your time and energy, and like, people will notice, and people will want to do business with you because of the right reasons, and I've never been someone that promotes our rates and because I want people to do business with us because they know that we care about them, and we care about what's going on in our world and things like that. So if you look at my Give Back Omaha stuff, if you look at our Facebook pages, you'll never see anything about our auto rates or our home rates and anything like that, because that's just not why I want people to do business with us. So that's essentially what we did. So every month we would do that. We would showcase them. We would share their stuff. And then, oftentimes, because we didn't ask them to, they would share what we were doing, and it just became a multiplier effect, and but I think it took time. It took a lot of energy. And when you first start a business, there's not a lot of extra money to go around. So I kind of joke. I'm like, some of those first donations, it was like, hey, here's this check, but can you maybe hold that till Monday? time, it got better, and your impact can grow a little bit, and so that was great. But that was kind of the method behind it. We never asked anything of these people. They have enough on their plate. We just came at it from a place of true love, and really trying to help. And when they knew and felt that that's what was actually happening, they were so willing to then reciprocate that, and I think that's what allowed us to really expand our reach with Give Back Omaha. But man, at first I would talk to nonprofits like, I joke that the Hope Center for Kids, which is an amazing organization, this dude was talking in Starbucks about to someone else, and I'm like, hey, I just tapped him on his shoulder. Hey, I've been listening to your conversation this whole time. Hey, I need to talk to you, man. Give me a call, because this is what we do. This is what we're about. I'm not going to interrupt you any more than I already have. And then I ended up doing a lot of work there over the last 2.5 years, both as a nonprofit of the month, and then did some mentorship stuff and mock interviews and things like that. I just love their mission. So, all because I just took action, I guess.
Your passion is absolutely evident. I love that. As I do interviews and engage with leaders, sometimes what I see on the outside isn't always what I see here. And that does make it a challenge, especially like you said, for those who are saying, I'm not succeeding, you said the first thing you said was check your heart. And so it's absolutely clear right here, right now, that your heart is where it needs to be. But I know from a business perspective that just having your heart where it needs to be doesn't mean that there are no obstacles.
Yeah.
And there can be challenges, and there can be times when you're like, oh my gosh, am I doing what I should be doing? Or even thinking along the lines of, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I took the wrong direction. Can you tell me a little bit about some of those times where you ran up against a wall and what that looked like for you, and how you got around that wall, tore it down, or whatever you did to get past that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always open. I'm probably open to a fault. It was a tough start, we thought, in my agency, I thought I'm gonna have this why, I'm gonna have this belief that, I believe people are good. They're just going to respond to this message, and they didn't, it didn't happen right away. And so, State Farm posts this. This is kind of crazy stuff. They post this ranking system for new agents, and when I on the very first ranking that came out for me, that I was a part of, I was second to last in the company, and but I believed in what we were doing, and that why was that I knew I couldn't shift my why. There just had to be some fundamental shifts in our what and our how, and how we were going to approach the business. How were we going to maneuver some of the things behind the scenes? But I knew if our why was there, that things were going to turn. We just had to correct some things on from a efficiency standpoint. But when our why was so deep, getting the shift of the how and the what made it the team could get behind it, because they knew there was something bigger there, right? And so we were second to last, and then we would jump up 100, and then we would jump up 100 more, and then we jump up 100 more, and we jump up 100 more, and we finished just outside of the top 100 in our first, by the end of year one, and so we literally went from 664 to 112 in 8 months, because the why was right. We knew, but the how needed work. And I think any business owner is going to fall on their face, especially when they first start. There's roadblocks and you stumble. But if you don't have that why there, I don't know how you get your team to buy into the rest. We had to do the daily chores that everyone else has to do. We have to make the calls that everyone else has to make. We have to prospect. but we also had this bigger reason about why we were doing it. So that makes the chores more enjoyable. We could find joy in the chores. When I said, hey, we have to shift this, but we never shifted the big thing, that's when we saw this thing take off. And I think if we would have shifted the big thing, if we would have shifted our deep why, then I don't think we would have found the success long term that we would have, that we ended up having. But they did not go without struggles, and it did not go without. You're exactly right. The thought process of, am I doing this right? There's other ways that other people have done this that are not this way, that have been successful. Like, should I be just copying them? And you have those doubts. And I just think in those moments, you have to, again, like, just look inside yourself and say, what do I want this to look like? What is success to me? What does this, at the end of the day, what do you want from this gig? And that will allow you to find and navigate. And again, that's what we did. But it was a beast, like, it was a beast at first. And when you move to a place of, call it 500,000 people and no five, you don't have that built-in network of people that are just pounding on your door to do business with you, right? And so we had to go work at it. And I think over time it really, it just paid dividends in that we never lost our purpose.
And this next question, you may or may not be at this point. I'm glad that you acknowledged the challenges in the beginning, because a lot of times from the sideline view, which that's really how most of us observe success, is from the sideline view. It's easy. We don't have to reach out and ask questions. So we just watch from the sidelines, social media, news, whatever, and we don't see those challenges. So I'm glad that you acknowledged that they were there, and they were there right away, and had to be overcome. You've been in business now independently for 3 years. Is that accurate?
Yeah, just about.
Okay. So have you hit yet? And I'm going to say yet because I've been a business owner for, 19. Okay, I just aged myself. Have you hit yet your second wall? And I'm not going to tell you how many they are. You can figure that out on your own. But have you hit a second point where you're like, struggling on, am I doing what I'm doing right? And is there something different, and all of that? Have you hit that point? And if you haven't, that's fine. But I'm just curious if it's happened.
I don't know if I've hit like a second major wall. I would say that there's always like little walls that you are constantly hitting, right? Like, I'm an old football player, so like, you just get hit all the time, right? And you have to pick yourself back up, and that's just how the game works, and I think that's a big part of life, like in football and life. Different conversation for a different day. But so I would say, like, throughout these last, call it 3 years, you're constantly facing walls, and like small ones, not like major, like hit you in the face type of things, but constant challenges and constant struggles. But yeah, I no, you're exactly right. Everyone sees the glory, might not be the right word, of being a business owner, the freedom, but it's a challenge. It's not easy, and you have to work at it. And there's no business owner that has ever just made it like that. And so you have to learn. You have to fall on your face. And I think the one thing that we've done well is, when we face with adversity, we just keep going. We take a step back, look at what's going on, how do we address the situation, and then we move. We take action. And I think that's where most people fail. And again, could be a conversation for a different day, but I think it's just that action piece. We had so many marketing failures, in 2.5 years, that we had these big donut parties and no one showed up, and all of a sudden we're delivering donuts to our neighbors and just saying hi. They didn't even have a party, and coffee, same thing. Like, we're having this big deal, no one showed up. So now we have coffee for every person in like a 6 mile radius, and so you learn from them, like a lot of people just say, well, I'll never do that again. Say, oh, did I market that right? Should I have handled that differently? And so like all those things cost money, all those things are bad mistakes financially for you as a business owner. But at the same time, like that's how you learn, and your next one is better, and your next one's better, and all of those things. So I think, I mean, in short, I don't think I've been like knocked to my knees like I did right away, but I've definitely faced enough like kidney punches, along the way.
Well, and what you said, there's these little walls, kind of what I've seen, and just, a tip as you're going along. When we run into those little walls, we might overcome them, but we leave a few bricks.
Yeah.
And if we keep doing that, if we keep overcoming them, but not clearing the path completely, if we don't take time to clear the path completely, it builds its own wall. Yeah. And it can grow over time. And those are the ones that are hardest to take down because they've built up so much over time. So as you come up against those smaller challenges, those smaller walls that you do get through, and I understand the marketing challenges and the ideas that are going to be amazing and just completely bomb. And when you have those and you learn from those, just make sure you clear the path, that there's nothing left unturned or unaddressed when you have those situations, so that you're not preparing the bricks of another wall that could stand up for you in the future.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. My last question, and we're going to kind of wrap up here. The title of this is Legacy Leaders. For me, my passion, we each have our why and our passion and our what it's really all about. And for me, it's about the fact that people become aware that literally everything they're doing right now is about building up their legacy. And that legacy is something that lives while we're living. It's not something we leave later. It's not something that we're going to create when we're successful. It's literally something we're doing right now. And part of that legacy is succession in business. So can you tell me a little bit, because you're leaving, like your last day is tomorrow. What did ensuring your legacy here and in the future of where you're going, what does that look like to you? How did you prepare for that? And how do you feel that's going to be successful for you?
So it's a tough question and a good question. I think our why from the very beginning was kind of built around legacy. We wanted to create something that was repeatable. We wanted to create something that could impact other communities outside of Omaha. And so I feel like we've done that. And I feel like Give Back Omaha might be done tomorrow. But I got a text from a guy just starting his agency in his first year in DeWitt, Iowa, last week, saying he just is launching Give Back DeWitt. And we've seen agents in over 15 states start give back campaigns across the country. Social media is powerful if you let it be. If you're spreading a message of encouragement and uplifting, it's amazing the connections that you can create. And so we've been very mindful of legacy and what that looks like while we're in action here. We have been an open book from the very first day. We're not someone that says, no, we're worried about growing our business. Don't get me wrong. I had to grow my business, but not at the expense of you not being able to grow yours. Right. And so when someone called us, we stopped what we were doing. We answered that call. We told them what we were about. And, we're very proud to see different people doing give back campaigns across the country. As I transition into this new opportunity, the impact changes a little bit. So the new opportunity is, I'll be call it a consultant for agents, kind of back where I'm from originally, and help them with their agency. And I sent them kind of why I sent them all an email this week about why I'm giving up something I love. I love Give Back Omaha. I love this community. I truly believe no one loves coming to work more than I do. And so I'm giving that up, and for a reason. And I gave them 5 reasons, and the biggest one is that I want them to fight for their joy, and that's my new impact. That I want people to love what they do, and because as a business owner, it can be one of the most there are amazing highs, and there are some very tough valleys,
Mhm.
and how do we navigate through those, and how do we maximize the highs? How do we stay on the highs as long as we possibly can? And that's what I want to bring to the table. I want people to love what they do. I want people to love their life as much as I do. And it doesn't have to look like what I do, right? Like, it doesn't have to, but you have to find what you do. So that's why I'm transitioning to this, and that's why I'm giving up something I truly love here, to do that, is because I believe that the more people that now I can individually work with and consult with, and help them find their joy, that's going to be passed on to their teams and their communities, I think the impact can spread even a little bit further. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of, it all comes back to that why, and that legacy that I hope to be living.
Yeah, I love that you shared that you're going to help them find their joy. That your joy, what you found joy in, doesn't have to be theirs, and they'll discover that on their own. So I love that you have the allowance for the individually adapted visions of each one of the agents that you're going to be working with. Because sometimes when we're joyful about something we're so excited about, we're just like, here it is, and this is the plan, and it works, and it's great, and you've got this. And then we're like, well, they're not excited about it. And we get confused that they're not excited about what we're so excited about. So I appreciate your wisdom in knowing that your joy is not necessarily going to be theirs.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your commitment in leaving to become more, because that's hard. It's hard to do. And I would venture to guess that along your journey, you're probably going to be doing that more than once, just because of your passion for growth and your passion for impact, which each time, I'm not going to say it gets easier, but your impact will fuel your ability to make those choices along the way. So,
Appreciate
you know, I'm kind of at the end of my questions. Honestly, we could talk for a few more hours, to be completely honest with you. But for the attention span of anybody, including myself, that would log in here and listen in, we're kind of hitting that mark.
Yeah.
And so I just want to wrap it up and ask you, we've talked a lot about your journey, where you started, where you're going. And I'm going to, if it's okay with you, I'm going to put a link to and share your video that you shared this morning in the comments here. Is that okay?
That'd be fine.
That was an awesome video. And just ask you quick in closing, is there anything that you want to share in closing?
I'll keep it short because you guys have listened to me talk too much as it is, probably. I encourage you to do something. Just, if you're watching this, do something to make the world a better place. And I promise you, if you just do something little, your life will start to get better and better. Seek out good people, and then take action. Don't just talk about things, be about things, and life will be great. So thank you for having me. This has been a blast, and it's been a pleasure watching your journey, and having our journeys connect on multiple occasions. And I look forward to doing more down the road.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. And I'll close it out for everybody. I appreciate you all joining us. I appreciate you willing to listen enough to learn where your possibilities lie. Because in all honesty, your legacy, it is absolutely right now. And it's so incredibly important that you choose to lead well in this journey. Take care.